Welcome to Female Fluence. We are a place of women empowering women. This is a safe environment where females are not judged nor afraid to flourish. My goal is to help you live an energized life of balance, whether as a mom, a wife, or in your profession. It is time to have self-worth and self-compassion. Live in the present moment and surround yourself with only healthy connections. So join me, Promash Shur, a woman empowerment life coach, an educator, and a mother of three, to help take you on a journey of true identity and inspiration. Perfectionism, a concept explored extensively in psychology, refers to a broad personality trait marked by individuals' relentless pursuit of perfection. Perfectionists are often driven by an unyielding quest for unattainable goals, measuring themselves through their productivity and accomplishments. This excessive focus that can divert attention from other important areas of life, leading to significant stress as well as dissatisfaction. Perfectionists tend to set unrealistic standards for themselves and their work, which can result in chronic disappointment. They frequently act as their own harshest critiques, evaluating their achievements with solid expectations and harsh judgment. True contentment for perfectionists often depends on achieving idealized state of mind, which is really not sustainable, as we know. At the heart of unhealthy perfectionism lies a fear of failure, low self-esteem, and feelings of unworthiness. These underlying issues can manifest in various forms, including anxiety, depression, eating disorders, and obsessive-compulsive behaviors. Understanding and addressing these root causes is crucial for managing this and fostering a more balanced and fulfilled approach to life. This is where my guest comes in. Melissa Fino is an award-winning business coach and success coach for female entrepreneurs ready to break free from perfectionism. She's also the best-selling author of Little Miss Perfect and the founder of Love Your Life community. But it's interesting. She is actually a high school dropout who later received her master's in social work from the University of Southern California. Still, to do so, she had to embrace imperfection and begin loving herself as she was. Melissa now runs a successful coaching business and continues to empower women who are just like her, ready to let go of the chains of the past to begin living lives that are guided by truth, love, and happiness. Melissa, welcome to Female Fluence. I'm so thrilled to have you on my show today.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction. I am thrilled to be here as well. Thank you.
Let's actually dive into your background. If you can tell us a little about yourself and who is Melissa?
Yeah, of course. So I'm originally from Connecticut. I did drop out of high school at the age of 16. I was, I always say you either get out all of your craziness when you're really young, or you tend to get it out in your late 20s or early 30s. I had mine when I was really young. My parents had an arranged marriage, and for a while I felt the pressure to have the exact same thing happen with me. So I rebelled against all of their values and everything that
Wow.
they wanted from me. So I dropped out of high school and then I went on to get a dry cleaning job, a restaurant job, just multiple jobs until I found something that kind of
Were
was
you
very
still
easy.
living at home? Or
Oh,
did your parents, I mean, were they accepting of you dropping out? I'm just curious.
I mean, there's so much there. See, both of my parents are they're 100% Portuguese.
Okay.
So my father moved here with a third grade education and then got a construction job and had that job until the day he passed away. And my mom came here with limited education, but she got her GED and then she worked up to get amazing jobs. But their value system was you work really hard, and it was the work ethic was a higher placement than getting an education.
Mhm.
So it wasn't really, I mean, they didn't like that I dropped out of high school, but as long as I got a job and I started working and making
Right.
money, that was
That was
acceptable at that
acceptable. Right. Right.
point. I moved out my first place when I was 17.
Wow.
Yeah. And I actually went to community college immediately after dropping out of high school. but I also dropped out of community college at that point in time as well.
You were just not ready for education.
I was a three-time dropout.
Okay.
It was consecutive. But then I ended up working in the hospitality industry and becoming a manager of a restaurant and just you know, there's nothing wrong with any of these, but I was accepting jobs that didn't push me to a level that I could have been
Right.
at. And I was consistently living that for over a decade. I didn't end up going back to college. I went to community college officially, where I actually stayed and graduated and ended up graduating with honors when I was in my early 30s. And it was right after my father had passed away.
Was that the catalyst that just made you switch off and say, I need to go to school?
That was the catalyst for change within me that made me realize that I didn't believe in myself. But before that, my father had always believed in me. So I realized that I kind of needed to, I say that his last breath in life was my first breath in life again, because it was a reminder that I could,
Ah,
gain that strength to do more. So I went back to community college, ended up getting all A's, getting into a college, a 4-year college in Connecticut, where I ended up graduating with honors. And then I was accepted into the University of Southern California when I was in Connecticut. So I ended up going there for my master's for a year and a half program. And that just kind of like the whole ball just kept going and going and going. It was that one first step. And
yeah.
yeah,
And I feel like you're so much more mature at that age, right? So you kind of have and you've experienced the work world already. So you kind of have a better idea of what you want in life, right?
yeah, yeah. And so at that point, I ended up getting my master's in social work. And it was during my last semester at USC that I took a coaching and consultation course. And that kind of just all of
Changed
a sudden,
everything.
yeah, shifted the trajectory
Yeah.
again. So then I opened up my coaching business immediately thereafter.
Okay, that's incredible. That's a great journey and it has a happy ending. I just feel like you're such a source of empowerment, teenagers or even older people who have not gotten received their degree and it's like it's never too late. You can always go back and get that education that you want to have to move you to the next step. So that's very inspirational. You wrote a book called Little Miss Perfect, and I love that title. And it's kind of about all the valuable lessons that you learned throughout this process, right? So if you can tell us more about those struggles and about why you wrote this book.
I'm trying to figure out exactly where to start. Little Miss Perfect is my whole entire story, my whole entire journey. And when I finished the USC in 2015, I started to write this book and I had put together like a whole bunch of different stories and then I shelved it. And then COVID came along and I started to rewrite it. And it's good that I waited that long because I needed more time to process and actually move through some of my own personal stories that I hadn't yet moved through so that I could
Right.
be able to share them. So if I had published it in 2015, it wouldn't be anything like it is now.
Right.
So what ended up happening with me is that I truly struggled with perfectionism. I always say it's those high achieving, people pleasing women and men who always put other needs and opinions before their own who struggle with this. And so for me, I also think it was a big part of the Portuguese culture. We're
Right.
always putting other people's needs in front of our own. So I felt that a lot when I was younger. And I also truly don't think I understood what self-love was.
Okay.
So, yeah, in my 20s, I ended up getting in a very volatile relationship. And so I am an attempted murder survivor. Uh,
I'm at a loss of words. I don't even know what to say. Wow.
Yeah, and there's a lot that goes with that because I didn't share that until I actually wrote my book.
Okay.
Like I wrote the book and then I gave it to my mom and my godmother and some of my friends and they read my truth for the
So
first
is
time.
that
And
the first time that they realized, like you told them this? Wow.
yeah, yeah,
That's deep. That's very, I mean, I can't even imagine.
Yes. And so our relationship was very volatile. And that was in my early 20s. And so I went through practically a decade of suppressing that and not talking about it with anyone and, working through those demons alone, even though I wasn't really working through them. I was just
No, none of your
holding.
friends, nobody around you knew what was going on with this. From the outside, they thought you were in this good relationship.
No, they knew that there was some domestic
No.
violence. They knew
Okay.
that there was some scary situations, but they didn't know that it had gone to that extent.
Okay.
Yes. Um, so I shared it all within this book, and it just, I don't even think that I had realized that it was that bad until I started to pull it all out of me. Yeah.
Was it healing for you when you did that? Because I feel like a lot of times that writing and releasing it is part of the whole healing process.
Yes. Yes. And I did work with a book coach who really supported me in being able to say all of that and being able to pull all of that out of me. Because if I didn't have her there supporting me, then I probably wouldn't have been as raw or as honest. I have had numerous field placements where I worked for a year at a food pantry and a domestic violence shelter, and I never said anything about my own personal experiences. I just went through, like, yeah, that's how deep it was ingrained in me.
Yeah. I mean, there's denial, of course, because you feel like if I don't talk about it, it's not really happening. But the minute those words come out or you write it, you're like, wait, this is not right. This should not be happening. If I knew this was happening to somebody else, I would completely freak out. So why am I allowing it to happen to me? So that's very, very powerful and very difficult. Were you always struggling? This speaks to me on a personal level because that's one big problem that I've always had is that I am really working on it day by day is perfectionism. And I know it's hard for us as perfectionists to delegate. And I like what you had said somewhere where it was like the perfectionist illusion, where you think, whether you're working by yourself or you're in a house or in a corporate world, even if you try to delegate a little bit, you're still expecting, like I know even as like a young mom, like I would tell my husband like, "Oh, can you give a bath to the kids?" And I would kind of watch behind and be like, "Oh, he didn't do I told him to do it this way and that way and that way." And I would complain and tell my mom, and my mom's like, "Listen, like if you're going to ask him to empty the dishwasher or, give a bath to one of the kids, just let him do it his way. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be your way, but that's a little bit of our problem because we're so afraid to delegate because we know it's not going to happen the way we want it. So in order for that fear not to take place, then we're like, forget it. I'm just not going to delegate. I'm just going to do it myself because they're not going to do it right. No one's going to do it the way I want it done. And that can be anything. I mean, this is just like, a small item, but it can be in the corporate world or anywhere else that you just refuse and you just do everything yourself. So we can touch on this a little bit.
Well, the way that I think about it is so you might have your version of what's perfect, and I might have my version of what's perfect, and somebody else is going to have their version of what's perfect, right? So there really is no quote unquote definition of perfect.
Yes.
And when we're constantly striving for it, we end up getting nowhere. Nowhere. And so it is really difficult, especially for female entrepreneurs and business owners, because we like to have like plan A, plan B, know what every single step is, right? Like climb the staircase. I'm going to go get my bachelor's degree and then I'm going to get my master's. We're going to get married, have 3 kids, like all of these different things. As a small business owner, you don't know what's going to happen today and you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You can have a plan for it, right? Your perfect plan, but
Right.
it's perfect. It's not going to be perfect by any means. So the illusion is what you're seeing from your own eyes. And if you can just kind of like I talk about rewiring and retraining your brain, and I really love to work on this with clients. The way that you have to shift the way that you think will obviously change the behavior, but just knowing that your version of perfection and your husband's version of perfection isn't the same.
It's not.
No, not it's not, right? And there's
Yeah.
also such a beautiful, like a moment of gratitude for him, giving your child a bath and like supporting you with all of these different things, that you have that support and the help there to do it. And
Right.
that your child actually has the ability to sit with their father while they're giving a bath and all, that. But
It's very true. It's very, and so I actually, I'm a big believer of rewiring our brains with, different ways to even change our old habits, empowering us to be a better person. So I touch on that on many of my episodes because I really feel like we can change pretty much anything if we really set our mind to it. Like, and if we're serious about it and we work at it every day. I mean, whatever it may be, like I will even do like I'll do like a little post-it somewhere just to remind me,
mm,
so that okay, no, like I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do it this way. But I really truly believe that we can really do this.
we can. And the problem, it's not a problem, but the reason why a lot of people don't believe that they can is because it takes at least a
Time.
minimum of 70 days
Yes.
to change your
So they
behavior.
want immediate results, and the moment they don't, they just lose their patience and they go, "This is not working. I just quit. Like I'm not going to do this anymore." And this
Yeah.
can be with anything. Right now, though, we live in this world of instant gratification. It's like, oh, you just order something on Amazon, it's outside before like your order is through. So we're not a generation of people that is used to waiting and taking our time, and you know,
And it's the same thing that could be said for business owners, right? Because
yeah.
you don't see the results in real time, even though they're really happening, but you can't grab them.
Yes. Yes, it's very true. You did struggle with perfectionism. Did it start at a certain age, or what do you think triggered it?
I was a smart student when I went to school, but for me, I think it was more of the pressure that I felt from my heritage. And so I had to go to Portuguese school for 6 years. And so I would go to school and then I would go to Portuguese school after school. And then we would
Wow.
go, yeah,
That can burn you out.
yeah, 3 hours, 3 nights a week. And it was just, and then there was so much more cultural stuff added to that. And my mom, and this is, I always have to add this caveat. My mom taught me the things that she knew, and she's learned so much since then. So I'm grateful for everything that she's given me. But she always put other people's ideas and opinions above her own. And so I felt that, and I always felt like I needed to be perfect. I needed to look perfectly poised in my outfit, and I needed to say the exact right thing. And if I didn't get my conjugated verbs right in Portuguese class, I was going to get in trouble. Like just so much of that pressure. And that is what ate up at me. And so when I was younger, I was the youngest cousin out of maybe like 50 by like 5 or 6 years. So they used to call me like the little princesa and the princess, and she's so perfect and that kind of thing. And so I think that Little Miss Perfect just came from
It
that.
stuck with you. And that's why a lot of times they say, I used to be a teacher, so I'm an educator too, but we're taught that we shouldn't say, like, if, I even try, if I'm complimenting my kids, I don't say, like, oh, you're so smart, you're a genius, or because I don't want those labels stuck on them. So they have this pressure. So the moment that they do something that's not right, it's like I always go to the other way. I like, oh, I think you did such a great job at this assignment today, or you were so kind to your friend, versus sticking these huge labels at them. And so that's why when you're saying this, it's really interesting because I can completely resonate with you because I'm actually Persian, similar culture. And my mom completely similar. So it was the same thing. It was very important. If we left the house, we all had to look proper. She would say, like your husband represents you, your kids represent you. It's this whole way of looking a certain way and obviously doing everything for other people. And so I grew up exactly like when you were saying this, I was like, oh my goodness, that just sounds like me. So-
Yeah.
And then the
That
Persian, I mean, I gave up. I tried to put my kids in Farsi school, but it was just so much for them with their regular academics. And I just didn't want them to become resentful. I was like, if they can speak it or they can at least 100% understand it, then I'm not going to worry about the writing part because I don't want them to hate the language and just say, forget it. I refuse to like even, you know, remember it or speak it or practice it. So we kind of, after like a certain grade, we just all stopped the classes. So I completed that. That's a lot to go to school and then go to another school. That can burn you out.
Yeah, and so I mean there was so much of that was in my early teens, like just entering teens, early teen time period. And then I also had a lot of self-doubt and worthiness stuff that was happening on within me, which is normal for all teenagers.
Yes, yes.
And so I think this was another thing that we were going to talk about as well. But before I even dropped out of high school, I had two suicide attempts that were when I was in school. And that is something that I share within the book as well. I share pretty every dark hole that I've had.
So you tried twice, like back to back, or and
Yep.
were you not, did someone find you, or did you not go through with it 100%?
I'm
Because
going
you,
to be completely honest with you and share a story that I don't think I've ever shared on another podcast, and I don't believe I shared this in depth in my
thank
in
you.
my
I
book.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I took some of my mom's pills that I shouldn't have taken, and I also drank some of my dad's whiskey at the same time. And my mom found me half naked in the bedroom floor, pretty much within hours of passing away. That was my second attempt. I don't even recall my first attempt. I think my first attempt must have been not as as that. I
Yeah.
can't even put words around that right now, and I don't want to. Yeah.
I can't even imagine how dark of a place you were to do such a thing. And it's interesting because you tried twice and it didn't work, thank God. And which means that you are here, you have a purpose, and you're making all these amazing changes for everyone that you're working with around you, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and how scary for your mom.
Hmm.
I can't even think like that. So yeah, that's what we were going to talk about. Are you still an advocate for suicide prevention? Are you still involved?
So when I was in San Diego, which I just moved to Florida 4 months ago, I was a participant in different kinds of boards there. I'm in the process of moving and figure out exactly where I want to live. So I am not part of any boards right now, but I will be once I get settled in again.
Okay. That's good that you're reaching out and trying to make sure that other people like yourself don't experience similar things.
Oh, and I am so open to it where I used to do small little like inside speaking events in San Diego that were just town related. I would love to share my story on a greater scale where I can share the truths and the rawness of what I just shared with you, right? Because that's really important.
And that's how change happens. It's with you sharing your story. And if let's just say you go to another high school and you do it talk, and there's another girl that's going through similar things, and go through why you did it, why you were regretful, and what the changes that you're making. I mean, hopefully that will spark a light. And then if she wants to like come and reach out to talk to you even more, as a mentor, so it's like it just takes if you make a difference for one person, that's what I believe in completely. So I really admire you for being so brave and being on this show and just talking about such, very deep, dark times of your life. Now, do you think as we go back to perfectionism, are there different types of perfectionism, and how can we handle all these like suppressed emotions that we have?
I just think there's three different kinds of perfectionism, and I kind of like touched on it a little bit, where it's, how you view the world, how others view the world, like how others view you, and how society views everything as a whole. So it's kind of a true perfectionist needs to have everything fine print is, living in their own peripheral vision.
Yeah,
Is it peripheral vision or is that it is peripheral
it
vision,
is.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's just knowing those are the three that I say.
If you I can actually share a few steps, because since you have gone through all of this hardship, how ways of nurturing and soothing your inner critiques, because I think that's part of it, right? When it's like that inner voice that keeps talking to us, and that's why that perfectionism gets worse. It's like you didn't do it enough, you didn't do enough today, or you lack this, you're not worthy of this. So what can we do to stop hearing that voice and stop being so critical of ourselves? Because I once interviewed an incredible guest where she was talking about research that was done about like how much critical like words or sentences or phrases we tell ourselves in a day. It's like from the moment we wake up, it's like, oh, you woke up too late. Why did you just push the snooze button? Oh my gosh, you didn't, you forgot to do this, or you're too tired to work out. Like, what's wrong with you? You look fat, and it's like constantly from the moment you wake up until you go to bed, that's what we're doing. And it's like learning how to train ourselves to say, stop that. I'm not even going there. I'm not even listening to you.
As I'm listening to you explain that, I'm thinking about how beautiful it is to be in a place right now where my mind doesn't do that chaos, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sensing a little bit of gratitude for that. But I had those moments where
Yes.
every second there was a negative thing coming up. So what has completely shifted me is the person that I am today and all of my habits and all of my behaviors. And just like we said, if it's something that you want to change, it has to be something that you are head on thinking about
Yes.
changing every single day. And so, one of the simplest ways to begin is to take a little tiny piece of paper like this, fold it in half, and on one side, write what your thought is, and on the opposite side, write the complete opposite, because your thought, that one little thought that you're having, is not really reality. It's just a thought that you're having,
Yeah.
right? When you write the other side, you begin to see what's possible. When you begin to write the other side and repeat it, you begin to see what's possible. When you write it, read it, repeat it, all of that, it shifts that slowly. It needs to be consecutive. The simplest way to do this as well is I I woke up late today. I can't go to the gym. I can't do this. I'm a fat slobber. That's just a horrible
Okay.
thing to say. But if somebody is thinking that,
Yes.
bad, and it's just a thought that I'm having immediately after that. I woke up late. I'm mad at myself. I did this. This is makes me a horrible person. And this is just a thought. It's not my reality.
Yeah.
It's just a thought. We all have thoughts. Doesn't mean that it's reality, right?
Right. Right.
Just just small things like that, but consistently changing that.
Yeah.
70 days. That's
Yeah.
like that's a long time. And so there's a lot that needs to be changed for that person who's really thinking those thoughts consecutively, because they're not taking care of their mental health.
Yeah. And it spirals because if you have one negative thought, then the one negative thought makes you, and you have this negative attitude throughout. And it's like being able to just stop and, kind of just like exactly like you said it. Because when you think that it's just a thought, it's like, oh, okay.
It's just a thought.
I'm going to push the delete button. I'm done.
Yeah, and I got to be honest with you, I don't remember where I picked that up, and I think it was Brene Brown, where it was
Oh, I
just
love
something.
her.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
But it's just something so simple. But if you can rewire yourself to just add that in,
Yep.
it takes you out of the negativity of most of that.
Yeah, and that's a start. So it's like it takes a long time, but just like day by day, step by step, and it is possible, just like we talked about rewiring. So sometimes we also need help with labels, right? I mean, I know that's what you do a lot of the times to shift the other ladies to change their identity. So how can we eliminate those labels from the past that kind of we feel like define us and create a new identity that we would like to have?
I'm trying to figure out the best way that I'm not going to swear
The
on here.
short version, I guess.
I don't want to swear on here. I have my clients do something that's a B arse letter, and
Okay.
it's just everything that you've ever achieved. Because I think perfectionists tend to think I haven't done this well enough, I haven't done this, I haven't done that. But if you actually sat down and wrote everything you've ever achieved since your first memory, clients have huge lists. They're like, I danced on the stage with Beyonce, I did this, I was a high school dropout, I went and did this. Everybody comes up with these amazing stories, and they realize I'm a whole lot stronger than my thoughts were making me, right? And that's a way to shift the label. So if you can start to go down that list and remember, like, I had my first child at this, we did this together, like that shifts it
Yeah.
to, I'm an
Because it's
amazing
interesting,
mom.
like you said that. I really like that because you forget. You forget all your accomplishments, you forget your success, you forget all those good stories. But for some reason, we get stuck on the bad ones. It's like, oh, I forgot to do this. I'm a horrible mother.
Mhm.
I didn't do this. I'm really bad at my job. Those are the stories that we get stuck on. And that's the problem. So, like to do that, and as a reminder, even have it like in front of you. So every time you have a bad day, it's like, oh, wow, I've done all of this. I'm an incredible person. I'm going to continue doing it. I'm going to push restart and then I'm going to start again tomorrow, you know?
The thing is that this list can go on and on and on. I have my clients laminate it, put it on their fridge, but I also, if you really are going with that bad label and not thinking about everything that you've accomplished and done and everything beautiful in your life, I have my clients record that on an audio and listen to it 3 or 4 times a day. And if they're afraid to do it, I do it for them and I make them listen to me.
That's a great
Repeating it.
technique because it doesn't take too long. You're just sitting in the car, you're kind of spiraling and it's like, okay, let me just listen to this. Okay. Now I can shift myself, my mindset again. What
Yeah,
a great technique. I really like that.
thank you.
I think I'm going to use that for my clients too. I know you've had a lot of stories of resilience throughout your journey, but is there another story that you would like to share with us today that you haven't touched on?
My father passing was the biggest shift and catalyst for me, and that just gave me so much courage. And I always say it's kind of like the everybody goes through this story that changes them. A majority of people do, right?
Right.
Especially in the self-help field. We go through an illness, we go through a death, we have a job that changes, or a divorce, or a relationship that breaks down, whatever that might be, and that acts as this catalyst that changes us. I always kind of say it's the gift that you wish you could give to someone, but you never want to give to someone,
Right. Right.
right? Because it changes everything for you and it just opens the door to how there's so much more that's really going on that is beyond what's in our head.
That's beautiful. That's very, and I feel like your father kind of gave you like that last gift, right? Before he passed away that you're going to hold on forever. So that's really magical. That's for you. So anytime you're working or doing something, you always know this was like the last thing that he was able to give to you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm living in, or yeah, he's living in me. Yes.
Yes, yes, for sure. For sure. That's amazing. Now, why do you think creating a vision is the first step to loving your life and changing things?
When you create a visualization for what you want, you're giving yourself something to work towards. I think that a lot of people, where they get lost, is they start to chase someone else's version of success. And then they get there, or they get really close, and they're like, this isn't really what I
This is
wanted.
not for
What I,
me. Yeah.
yes. And so if you get crystal clear on what your values are, what's most important to you, do you want a job that supports you in being home with your kids more? Do you want, like, what is it that is most important? Do you
Right.
want freedom to travel? You want to live in the city? You want to live in the country? Like, what really means the most to you? And when you get crystal clear on that, then it's easier to go there and you're not wasting a whole lot of time.
Yes. Every time I do an episode, we always go back. I hope my listeners are really like they know this now by heart as we go back to the core values, right? It's like once you know those, like it could be like your five core values, then you can figure out your vision. What do you want to do? What's the next step? But when you're lost and you don't have those values and you don't know what's really important to you personally, not the people around you, or like you're saying, living someone else's dream, then you can't get there yet until you do this steps, which is really, really important. Now, Melissa, you are also the founder of Love Your Community. Please tell me more about this.
So, Love Your Life Community is just the first version or the first iteration of where my business started. Yeah. So I started off as Love Your Life Coaching, and then it went to Love Your Life Community, and then it went to the Bad Arse Entrepreneur, and then it ended up landing on Melissa Fino. When I published my book, because I finally felt like I was being myself.
It was your entire journey, right? And it has a great name because that's what we need to do. Like you need to love you, love everyone around you, and that you then when you do that, you have that kind of energy that you're giving off to everyone else. And I can see that you have that kind of energy.
Thank you.
Well, it's been incredible. To sum up, perfectionism doesn't have a single cause. It's usually the result, combination of factors. Perhaps you had a strict parent, caregiver, or coach whose judgment you wanted to avoid. Maybe you grew up with a role model who demonstrated unhealthy perfectionism, leading you to adopt similar behaviors. Or perhaps, as a different one in your family, you faced challenges that kind of pushed you to impose unrealistic standards on yourself. Regardless of the reasons behind this, it's never too late to begin changing these patterns. The first step is adopting a growth mindset and developing a self compassion vision. Start by speaking to yourself with kindness, challenging yourself, and quieting that negative inner voice, like we talked about. Melissa has shared some critical steps to help initiating these changes, as she did on her own personal journey. Remember, it's always possible to rewire your brain. It just takes a little while and guide healthy habits that empower you rather than diminish you. Thank you for joining us, Melissa, on Female Fluence. Is there anything else you would like to share with me today?
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a beautiful conversation. You can, find out more about me at melissafino.com or on any social media platform. And you can also access my first chapter of my book over on my website as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All the links will be included in my show notes so you can find out more about Melissa and order her book as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today to Female Fluence. Together, we can influence and motivate other mind-like females. Your job is to feel alive, be in control, and always be true to your own self. Please don't forget to subscribe so you can continue feeling inspired. All the links and notes from this episode will be posted on my website, femalefluence.com. Don't forget to also follow me at Female Fluence on both Instagram and Facebook. Lastly, if you are in need of a woman empowerment life coach to help you identify the barriers that keep you from living the life you seek, please send an email to info@femalefluence.org. Remember, my friends, don't just exist, but live your life to the fullest. I'm your host, Pearl Mashur. Until we talk next time.